Hey guys, this is Rachel from Blue Jane Creations. I just wanted to jump on and do a quick update. I had posted photos on my community page about having to pull everything out and showing you as the bomb had gone off, there was stuff everywhere. I needed to resort everything, not only from the craft show, but I needed to make room for the new printer. This is going to be a sublimation printer, and I also moved my regular color printer here. You see, it's a printer scanner. I think they both are, but I know the one up here on the shelf is for sure. And then I'm also going to need to get a new computer, so I needed to make room for a tower. I'm going to go back to a desktop style rather than keeping the laptop. And instead of, here's a quick tip, if you didn't know, the smart TVs can become computer monitors. So I don't have to go out and buy a monitor now. I can keep this TV to do both as streaming service and as the monitor for the computer. But I needed to go up because I don't know how big the computer's going to be. It's whatever it is, it's going to be a refurbished computer just to save on cost. Because the main thing I'm looking for is storage, speed, and graphics quality. And you can get some decent stuff refurbished for what I need. So, a side note, if you're in the market for electronic equipment, check refurbished and also consider doing a smart TV as the monitor. It was not expensive at all. This TV was well under $100. And now it's going to serve two purposes, and I'm good with that. It's very economical. So anyway, moving on. So this is the printer. It could be color or sublimation, but I want it to be sublimation. So you can't go back and forth. It has to be either or. So I just ended up getting color cartridges for my old color printer scanner, and then this will be dedicated strictly to sublimation when I start dipping into that. So I'm sure if you go back and were to watch the craft room tips and tricks video or whatever it was that I did, I think it was in February of last year, you'll see some fairly large changes. But it was sort of a have to, and it also forced me to go through all the stuff, weed out stuff that I'm not using anymore, pull out stuff that had started to get lost that I needed to get onto. And then I just did a quick update. And one other tip here, I'm not going to spend too much time, like I said, on this part. If you need to get rid of shelving because you have too much stuff and you want to do something to make sure that you can't get more shelving, hang stuff on the wall. That is what I did here. I use these magnetic boards to hold my super large stencils because they're too big for my, I think the biggest drawer I have is a 12 by 12. They are not going to fit in any drawer space I have in this room. So two magnetic boards, and I use the magnets, of course, to keep them in place. And that is how I store my new, or my, not my new, my large stencils that I use. And of course, because they're dragons, so I don't also want them far from me for this reason. And so I just kind of reworked the shelving a little bit. I weeded out a lot of stuff. I took out a lot of storage from doing condensing and all of that. And just a heads up, when I get the online store going, I will be doing some de-stash items. I have no idea how much, but there will be some available from things that I'm not using, so I might as well see if anybody else wants to pick them up to get going with what they're doing. So I really did do a lot of weeding and just made it even that much more functional now. And you have to get tough with yourself. If you're not using something from 6 months to a year, then chances are you're not likely to get to it. So it's a good time to make that choice. Do I want to keep it or do I want to move it? And then I think that's about it for this portion of events. So I'm going to sign off here, and then I am going to kick over and do the quick run through of the basic tools that I think are important if you do a lot of crafting and you don't yet have them. So I'll be right back. Get started on the quick run through of the main stuff that I keep by me all the time. Number one is the SureBonder. I use the small one most of all right now, but if I need to get into bigger projects, I do have a Ryobi cordless. At the Dollar Tree now, they also have these little silicone mats that you can use, like if you're doing a lot of work and instead of reaching across the desk all the time, I just kind of lay it down while I'm in the middle of stuff. And then I can pop it back in here. This is actually a baking dish that got converted, which is also a good idea because they can withstand the heat. So if you're like me, periodically I forget to turn this off for a while, you don't have to worry about it burning anything down because this is for oven. You can bake these things in the oven. So if you do a lot of paper crafting, I definitely recommend getting a tape glider. If you don't do a lot, then it would probably be in your best interest to just stick to the little handheld tape runners. This is definitely better for people that do like bulk card making. And this is the 1/4 inch is what I use. You may have seen something like this. There's a ton of them all over YouTube in different colors that different crafters are using. So since mine died, I just went ahead and picked one of these up, and it is really good. It was a little bit getting used to it because it's a lot bigger than my old one, but I'm starting to really get the feel for it. So this should keep me going for quite a while. And I am trying to stay focused, so bear with me. Another go-to is getting a solid scoreboard. I had a fold-up, and it folded up, I think it was like at the 6-inch mark. And no offense to the company, I cannot remember the brand. I've had this one I think for almost a year now. The fold-up ones are good if you're only going to use it folded. I kept ripping the paper when I had to score along the seam where it folds. So, you know, if it works for you, that's fantastic, but my recommendation would be if you do a lot of scoring, get a solid board. They have them in different sizes. You don't have to get one that accommodates the 12 by 12. This one happens to be the EK Tools brand. And I also have to remember to leave this in here. I've almost lost this thing quite a few times, so I keep this here, so I'm only using this when I'm doing the scoring, and I'm getting better at remembering to put it back in there. I haven't misplaced it for a while. So that's another thing that I like to keep, especially if you are cutting down your own card bases. This is really handy, again, when you're doing bulk. It just makes things go so much faster. Okay, so there's that. Let me move that to the side. My favorite craft glue is the Art Glitter Glue. This is really good, but it dries quick, so you got to be quick depending on what you're doing. It's a little bit more on the expensive side, but a little goes a long way. Another good brand, I don't particularly use it, is Barely Art Glue. That's a good one too. I've seen all over YouTube with crafters. If you can't get a hold of this, that's a good go-to. But so far, I've not had any issues getting hold of the Art Glitter Glue. So I really, really recommend it. It's got good hold. It is pretty much the main crafting glue I use at any given time. Another go-to, I have the Sunlit brand of the stamping pad. This one the lid is removable, which I kind of like it if I need to adjust something, you know, or if I'm doing something that I don't need the lid, then I can take it off and fiddle around with whatever. But I did add, I have to clean it as you see, but I added a grip mat right onto the base, and I like it because it really does hold your stuff really nice when you're coming in to do stamping. And if you have to do it a few times to get a nice clean image, then this will keep it right in place. So if you haven't already started using a grip mat of some kind on your stamping platform, I really recommend it. So this is the stamping platform that I use, and again, this is the Sunlit. And You know, aside from the few exceptions of stuff that I've pointed out or referenced, things I got from the Dollar Tree, probably the vast majority of stuff in this craft room I ended up getting from Amazon. So again, that would be my first go-to for you to recommend looking for it. And then if they don't happen to have or are out of stock of what you're looking for, then I would go to the general Google search and go there. So that's my stamping. And again, if you do a lot of stamping, you do a lot of bulk, that is a massive lifesaver when you got to be sure that everything is getting stamped evenly. Especially if you have to restamp a few times if your ink pad isn't juicy enough. Okay, another quick go-to, I got these at the Dollar Tree. I use a ton of them, so I actually ended up buying just an entire case of these from the Dollar Tree. But these are just little pockets. They're pretty large. They're 9¼ by 13 inches, and they're fairly deep. But I use these like if I'm working on a project or if I get a card kit or something like that, then I can keep that card kit together now so I can remember where I got it, as well as put it all in the pockets so I don't lose it. So this is a great way to store projects, like if you have to break off in the middle of something, you can just pop it back in here. I feel pretty sure if you're overseas that you can find a comparable item in your discount stores. So again, this was a 9¼ by 13 inches, and it holds a fairly good sized paper item. If it's, you know, longer than 11 inches, you got a little bit of room. You just obviously can't go past 9½. Or if you do, you can't close it with a snap. So anyway, okay, I'm digressing. Let me move on. Another fun thing to use when you're working on projects are these trays. I'm going to just kind of hold it up. I have 4, but I'm using the red one right now, and I didn't want to swing it around and have stuff fly everywhere. But these are not currently in use. I got these actually from a teaching supply store. I think it was Lakeshore Learning if you're here stateside. And these are huge, and they're fairly deep. And these are really good if you're sorting stuff for doing projects. Like I like to sort out the embellishments, and I like to sort out the toppers and keep them separate when I'm working on bulk card making for another, again, as an example. So these are really, really good for holding your project. And these are considerably larger than 9¼ by 13. So at a guess, I would say they're probably about, I would say 11 inches wide and maybe 15 inches long. And then maybe 1.5 to 2 inches deep, relatively speaking. I don't want to take the time, to measure it, but this is something that is really good to keep all your stuff together. They're stackable. As long as what you're putting in there is fairly flat, you can just kind of stack them when you're done for the day and move them to the side, and your stuff is all contained and ready when you come back to it the next day. So these are also definitely something that I recommend. I have a couple smaller ones, but I tend to gravitate towards the big ones, so that's why I'm going to show you these. I've sort of moved out of the little ones, and this is what I use here, these large ones. So again, something to keep in hand, you know, if you do a lot of projects where you have fiddly bits you need to sort out. So I definitely recommend getting silicone mats. These, please excuse, they need a bath, which this big one I literally need to clean in the bathtub because it's so big. But it helps give me good coverage when I'm working with ink sprays or the jelly printing, you know, stuff splattering. It's large enough, I've got really good coverage that I can pretty much keep it off the desk. So I'm not going to unroll the whole thing, but it's big. I want to say it's like 2 feet by 3 or something like that. Again, I got this off of Amazon. I'll see if I can find the information on it of what the actual dimensions are. But silicone mats are really good for cleaning. They may stain, but you can clean them. So that's always handy for, you know, if you're working with hot glue or anything like that. It's a good protector for your desktop. So I'll be unfurling this guy again when I get into my next round of the jelly printing. And then I just have a smaller one. This one's got the measure, but you can see again, they both need a bath. So that's lots of work has been going on to get them that dirty. Well, not the last month, but I'm finally getting back to it. All right. Okay, another final note. I think I've gone through all my main go-tos here because, again, I don't want to bog this down. And a lot of this will get probably edited down for content. So this is the Tim Holtz, I think this is the 8.5 trimmer, and then I have the longer 12 one where if you need to expand it, it's got the little arm that stores underneath the base on the big one. I don't want to grab it because that'll make too much noise. But I have the set. I have this one, and then I have the longer one that will accommodate the 12 by 12 papers. And I also have the decal trimmer, which is the same size as this, maybe a little bit smaller. I've actually never set them side by side, but they're pretty close if they're not exact in size. So this is my go-to. I do have a heavy duty paper trimmer if I have to chop down a decent sized stack of paper. I do have that, but I only use it when I absolutely need to because that one is heavy. So with the reboot in here, I was able to get hooks onto my pegboard because that's anchored into the studs, I believe, so I don't have to worry about it falling. But I put hooks on the pegboard, and it has a lip on the inside. I was able to hang the big heavy-duty trimmer up there, and that was a lifesaver back when I had a bunch of stuff I needed to chop to get ready for the craft shows. That is a good thing to have if you do, again, bulk, but I don't want to really go too much into that right now. This is pretty much what I used 90% of the time is this guy, and then the follow-up would be the 12 by 12 trimmer for the Tim Holtz collection. So in any case, so that's the main thing I think that I have for any updates. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave in the description below or send me an email if you need any more in-depth or if there's anything else you want to follow up on of what I have, what I use, and maybe where to get it. So other than that, this has been just a fun little update. Like I said, not a whole lot new in here other than just a little bit more downsizing to kind of keep a lid on spending, especially right now since shipping and prices are doing their thing, as we are all experiencing that joy. So take care, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I will definitely be seeing you guys soon.